my body literally had shut down to where I knew I'm like, well, you can't do this anymore. Your body has said we're fed up, Cassandra, you can't go back. You didn't want to give us a break. So we forcing you to take a break. And that's so common.
Hey there, and welcome to Work is Third, the podcast that is all about indulging in rest, setting boundaries, finding joy, and putting yourself first. I'm Dawn Hunter, your host, and I am so excited you're here. Today's guest is Cassandra Hill, master life coach, best-selling author, and speaker. Cassandra's story is one of resilience, faith, and transformation. From corporate burnout to personal healing, she has turned adversity into triumph, and she's here to share wisdom that will inspire and ground you as you weather your own storms in life. If you want to skip around, I've added section markers in addition to regular chapter markers, but I think you're going to want to stick around for the whole thing. Let's dive in. Hello, Cassandra, and welcome to Work is Third.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me, Dawn. I appreciate the invite.
I'm really looking forward to getting into a conversation with you. I know we're both passionate about workplace wellness. We're also passionate about policy change and more equitable economic systems. So I think we have a lot to dive into today. But before we get there, I like to ask every guest to start out by sharing a word to describe how you're doing today.
I am feeling content and blessed.
Ooh,
I know that's 2
content and
words,
blessed.
but
That's 2 words. That's okay. We don't stand on rules here. Tell me what has you feeling content and blessed?
I'm in a place right now to where you plant so many seeds and it takes a while for seeds to develop. And as an entrepreneur, you give and you give. And honestly, just being real, sometimes you have moments where you're ready to give up. And you think, this is not it. I can go back to corporate. Let me look and see who available because this is a lot. But then you remember your why. That's big for me, remembering my why and the people you're called to serve. When you're just ready to I'm done with this, it just never fails. Someone will reach out and give you a story of how you impacted their life. And it's like, how dare I? So I'm just thankful where I am right now. Just content in that. And yes, believing for bigger, knowing that my vision is big. But just saying, God, I thank you. I'm blessed to be where I am in this moment.
I love that. I also feel blessed to be where I'm at in this moment. And it's so funny because this morning I was journaling about planting seeds, nurturing them, waiting for them to grow, having patience, because these were my exact same thoughts this morning. It was like, what am I doing? Can I keep writing this out and doing this thing that I'm really passionate about? Or should I be doing something else? But also knowing that I'm working really hard to plant seeds. So I really resonate with what you're talking about there in terms of what you're called to on your entrepreneur journey and how you're of service to others.
It's a blessing, when you hear, hey, I don't know if I would have been able to make it. Your story so resonated with me and it gave me hope. Whether it's from a woman who's dealing with child loss and maybe finally realizing that I may not have a biological child on this earth, and that's okay for me as a woman. And just knowing they're not alone with that, and you can still have a thriving life. I can give so many other examples, but I just tell God, thank you that the storm. And this is what I really, if you don't learn anything else from this podcast, just know the storms, while you may want to wish them away, because I never wanted to lose a baby. I didn't. But that happened so many years ago, and I'm thankful to be on the other side of it, um, to where God is allowing me to empower other women who may be going through that and maybe going through something different that, yeah, you will get through this. Don't wish that storm away. There's lessons to be learned from it, grow from it, heal from it. And you may end up like I am. I'm a master life coach. I'm an author, a speaker, and whatever I find myself doing, the goal is to empower women, but particularly a focus on women of color.
Yeah, and you are creating space, like I hope to do, to share stories and to help
Yes.
people realize they are not alone in what they're going through.
Mm.
It's actually come up a few times on this podcast, this idea of sitting with grief or sitting with sadness or these emotions that we consider very negative because they are just as essential to our growth and development as all of the joyful and happy emotions
Mhm.
as well. And in
Yes.
some ways, we can't experience high levels of joy and happiness if we haven't also known what loss is, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It is it's the circle. It's just having that full continuum because when you have it, if you have it so good and you hadn't experienced the other side of it, you won't appreciate it as much. But when you've been at the edge of the cliff and then you're able to make it to the valley, oh, that valley moment, it's a beautiful thing. It's just so beautiful because you're able to think about the frameworks. I know for me, even as a speaker, I'm like, okay, what framework did I utilize and that I can speak on? A framework that I can use and develop it, tweak it as needed for the women I serve as a coach. But it takes having that because there's people, and I'm sure you've experienced this, Don. There might be a therapist, mental health professional, life coach who they've went to whatever university, whatever school, and they have that clinical experience, which is a wonderful thing. And I have that too. God has blessed me. I got some letters behind my name, but having that real life experience, because you can learn whatever, but until you're able to apply, it just separates. It just separates you from others who might be doing similar things.
I agree with you on that. I think a lot about one of the things that is valuable in terms of what I offer is that I have so much experience in leadership or with workplace managing like personnel issues or labor issues or team development, employee engagement, things like that. And I could read all day about those things in a book or in the literature, and it is not the same as having to actually work through those issues in real time with real people. And that part, that lived experience is so valuable in so many ways. I'd actually love to hear more about you mentioned like a framework and your own experience and how that helped shape your coaching.
Yeah.
What did you do for you that now informs your coaching work?
Just in case you're watching this, right now I am paused on accepting new coaching clients. So if you would like to work with me, it would be through reading one of the books God has blessed me to write or getting in the audience at whatever stage I'm at. But the framework that I use with clients is based on a framework called birth actually. Part of this is actually in my devotional, He Restoreth My Soul, Triumph Through Adversity. And that devotional, I started writing after a loss of a baby, dealing with that and a marriage coming to an end. And what I realized is faith. For me, I'm a woman of faith and I believe in God. And so part of that framework is centered in connecting to God because He made us, right? And it's no different if you was to go out and purchase a desk, the instructions are in there. From whatever company who made it, the instructions are in there. Would you attempt to do it yourself, not read any instructions, or say like, hey, since this company made this desk, I'm guessing that these instructions should be pretty reliable. That's how I look at it with us as individuals. God made us. So as we connect with Him and develop our own personal relationship, He will give us what we need to figure out the vision He has for us. So the devotional is going to help individuals with that because it's not gonna be a bed of roses, right? When your vision is this big, and as you could see, you can't even see my hands. When you have a vision this size, it's not gonna be a bed of roses. So learning how to overcome those challenges and figuring out that framework, identifying your stressors. Once you know that, a plan to resolve those stressors. And like I said, being intentional with your activities. When you wake up, now you have this vision and you know this is what you should be doing. Do your daily activities resonate with that? If I'm saying I want to put out another book, I want to write another book, do my daily activities show that? Am I spending any amount of time writing? Do I have some schedule in place to where I'm like, hey, I'm gonna write 20 minutes or 30 minutes and you just think about what your vision is and does your daily activities align with that. So those are some of the things that's in that framework that allows people to reach goals. One of my clients, we were able to secure Google as one of her clients.
Oh, that's
So
incredible.
yeah, the framework, it works if the person is willing to do the work.
Yeah, you have to be willing to do the work. And I
Yeah.
think you made me realize part of that work is not just are you taking actions that are aligned with your vision, but if you're avoiding taking action that's aligned with your vision, are you having a conversation with yourself about why?
Yeah.
Because you make me think about many years ago, I thought I would go to medical school, and I started going through the process. I was gonna take the MCAT and apply to school. I did take the MCAT and started applying to schools, and I just kept dragging my feet on doing the applications, and at some point, I sat down with myself and said, "Maybe I don't actually wanna go to medical school."
Yeah.
If I really wanted
Yeah.
to, I would sit down and do it. So,
Yeah.
I think it's a good lesson to think about how we live in alignment with our goals, and if we are in any way hesitating, being intentional about exploring why, so that we can make the shifts toward what is meant for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Because everyone has a purpose. Every single person, you have a purpose, you have something. It doesn't matter. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm a master life coach. It's so many people out there who say they're a life coach, but guess what? I know what the assignment God has for me. So it doesn't matter how saturated you feel like the market is, there is something uniquely meant for you to do that no one else can do the way you do.
That's right. Yeah, I try to live by that too. How do you get people I'm curious your thoughts on how do you get people to believe that? Not just know it here, but, like, also know it in their heart.
Whether it's activities like, let's go to the grocery store, which I'm not there with them, but your homework assignment, go to the grocery store, and I want you to walk down the bread aisle. I want you to walk down the bread aisle, and I want you to write, take a screenshot, however you choose to record it. I want you to see all the brands out there that make bread. It's a lot. It's a whole lot. I live in a very rural community, and even here, if you go on the bread aisle, both sides of the aisle is bread.
Right.
There's someone at home right now who's saying, "You know what? I have this recipe for a bread that everyone loves. I'm gonna get it into whatever retail chain." Do you think they care about all these other brands that's already out there?
No.
If that's the case, we wouldn't have so many brands on the market. We wouldn't have so many companies selling the same product. Now it looks different, tastes different, right? Even if, like me, I like wheat bread. So Nature Own, cut me a check. Now, if one day I get Nature's Own bread,
Yeah.
and the next day I get the Blue Bunny, they're both wheat, both 100% wheat or whatever, but guess what? They taste different.
This is
They
actually a
have
really good example.
yeah, completely different. So it's whatever works for you. And like when you could see it And that's why a lot of times for homework, I give real life homework to where you're gonna get out. Sometimes it is something you could do in your quiet moments, but I want you to get out because we make decisions based on information. And when you're in that same environment, sometimes it's a challenge to have, like you said, you may think that in your mind, but you're not able to put it into action because you're in that same environment. And sometimes you just have to break up that monotony.
Yeah. I like the idea of doing that real practical exercise. And I think that ties into something I've heard from other guests too, which is this idea that even if there are 1,000 other bread makers or 1,000 other life coaches or whatever, they're not you. It's not your voice. You have your own unique take on whatever it is that is your gift to share with the world.
Yeah.
And that's a good reminder to do a practical exercise like that.
Yeah, there's some practical where you can say, oh yeah, all these other brands they
Doing just fine.
yeah, doing just fine, still making their millions.
Right. Somebody's buying them. So there is a
Yeah,
market out there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So let's go back because you are not coaching anymore, as you noted, but you
Yeah.
are still focused on workplace issues and
Yeah.
you transitioned out of corporate, right? So tell me a little bit about that journey to transition out of corporate and how it shapes kind of your current approach to healthy workplaces.
Yeah. When I think about my time in corporate, while I enjoy what I did, my background, I am a gerontologist. And most people ask, what's that? It's just a long word for saying I specialize in the study of aging. So I worked with older adults, improving their quality of life until they transitioned. And God bless, I eventually got in management and worked with some of the top senior living corporations. However, like many women, and especially Black women, you work in corporate and you sacrifice so much, because it's 100% about the numbers. It's 100% about that bottom line, and they don't care about you as a person, generally speaking. And so when I think about my time there, neglecting my health, neglecting my well being, when I transitioned out of it, honestly, it was by force. My body literally had shut down to where I knew I'm like, well, you can't do this anymore. Your body has said, "We're fed up." Cassandra, you can't go back. You didn't wanna give us a break, so we forcing you to take a break, and that's so common. I hate that it is, because it didn't click in my mind until, like I said, I was forced out, and I thought about, "Wow, look at how many other women I would see in similar situations as I do, where you're working, you're putting in time, energy like no other. And while you may be making, I know a lot of times people say, well, you did well. Not really. Not really. Because think about it, Don. If I'm helping to make a company millions of dollars, right? Wouldn't it be fair that I get a million too?
Pay us what we're worth. Yes, 100%.
So, so what you're giving me, I mean, it's a decent salary, but it's not like I'm Oprah. I'm not.
Right.
And most of us aren't.
Most of us
We're
aren't.
being underpaid.
We're being underpaid, undervalued. We're not cared for. I mean, you're right. I mean, the number one lesson for me is your job don't love you. Like,
No.
let go of that idea now. I think it's easier for younger generations who are more open to exploring and
Yeah.
jumping to new careers, taking time off. But I think older generations, that it
Yeah.
is not the norm to take that approach at all. That there's a lot of loyalty to companies, and just know that a company will never be loyal to you. loyal to their
No,
shareholders, to
not at all.
whoever they're making money for.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
But you also said that you left because your body literally shut down.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think about that too. I was burned out before I quit my full-time W-2 job, in 2023, and I went months, like, months having really terrible physical symptoms, anxiety, loss of sleep, difficulty focusing, just all kinds of things were affected. And I look back and say, why did I put up with that for so long? Why do we justify to ourselves that it's okay to suffer for work?
Yeah. I think for many of us, it's what we've been taught. We've been taught you go to school, you get an education, you're either going to get that good quote unquote government job, right? Or get in corporate. And that's when you've arrived, you've made it. And so when you think about the Black woman, many of us have the education. We're one of the segments here in the US. We're one of the most educated, and so when we broke into whether it was working with the government or corporate, we thought this is where I'm supposed to be because we were taught that for so long.
Let's talk about that because Black women in the corporate workforce, especially, we're highly educated. We have
Yeah,
degrees on degrees on degrees
yeah,
and still
yeah,
are working to be paid equivalently to or to be recognized in positions the same as our counterparts, from other groups, right? But we also
yeah.
have this interesting statistic recently, which I think is what you were talking about when we started, right? What is the number about Black women out of the workforce right now?
Over 300,000 in a 3-month time span. Over 300,000 Black women are no longer in the workforce.
That is staggering to think about because there are so many ripple effects
Yeah,
when a Black woman leaves the workforce, when any of us leave the workforce, but you think about it. What are her family dynamics? What is her community? It's gonna be harder for her to re-enter the workforce than it would be
yeah,
for someone else, right?
yeah,
And the longer that you're out of the workforce, for all of us, it's harder, but if you're a person of color and if you're a Black woman especially, it is even harder to get
yeah,
back in.
yeah, yeah. Because right now, this is intentional. For that number to be that high, and we're talking about in a 3-month time span, this is an intentional disenfranchisement of us as Black women. And as you mentioned, it's going to take longer for those who want to re-enter a career. It is going to take longer. And even when you think about those who decide entrepreneurship is an option for me, we have so many hurdles with that. Even when you think about venture capital, we get less than 1% funding in venture capital. So even just having the capital you need to have a solid foundation, um, to have a successful business, that's a
Mhm.
challenge. And although those are real deal challenges, what I'm loving seeing right now, though, we're some innovative women, right? And so we figure out and we strategize and we do what's necessary to overcome the challenges. And I believe that is what makes others so fearful of us because you think about the roadblocks other women of our age experience with even just getting the education. And so they made it that hard and we overcame that. They made corporate hard and we overcame that. And so now, it's just another hurdle. And just like we overcame those hurdles in the past, we're going to overcome this as well.
Yeah, you remind me the quote, "Necessity is the mother of invention," or
Yeah.
something like that, right? But
Mhm.
being out of the workforce with all of the economic pressures that exist right now and with so many changes in American society, there is an opportunity there, even if it's a
Yeah.
challenging one. There is
Yeah.
opportunity there to forge a new path, to
Yeah.
find a new way to contribute to the world. maybe to reconsider what it is that we define, like the ways that we define success, the ways that we define being a good parent or, being someone who is a good member of our communities. Now I think is a moment for that innovation to think about, especially
Yes.
for so many Black women out of the workforce. What are the resources? How do we create networks to support each other also, right? Because
Yes.
like we were saying, we started talking about the bread aisle, but I think that's the same. It's like we can all lift each other up. It's not a competition. There is space
I'm
for all of us to succeed,
yeah.
and we can do it better by supporting each other, I think.
Yeah. Yes, I totally agree. And for any woman who is watching this wonderful podcast, please, I encourage you go to my Linktree, Linktree Healer Cassandra. I do have resources available, some that are free. But if you're thinking, hey, I just want to branch out, be my own boss, I am connected with an organization, funding, grant options are available, lines of credit, helping to establish business credit. You'll see that resource and other resources I have available there on my link tree. So I encourage you to check that out.
Yes, I checked out your Linktree too, and I love that you have so many great resources on there. And I'm curious, when you were talking, it made me think you need money, you need those resources, but you also need an idea. It all starts with an idea, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What was your idea as you transitioned out of corporate? What called to how did you know that you were gonna go on the master life coach path?
I didn't know. If I'm just being honest, I did not know that.
You're
Um,
like, "Well."
yeah. I just knew what I had did before I couldn't do again, right? And w- and when I transitioned out and my body shut down, I was diagnosed with systemic lupus. And so, in me doing the journey with that, healing from that, and developing the regimen that put me in remission, I was like, okay, God allowed me to have this knowledge to heal myself. So let me utilize this in helping others heal. And so initially, how it started, I was just helping folks for free, honestly, Don. And the support groups I was in for autoimmune conditions and everything, I would help other people in the group. I would talk to them, figure out what they had going on, and develop regimens for them that was helping them get better. And I'll never forget, I was talking with one of my friend girls, and she said, "The way you are healing people, you need to get paid for this." And I was like, at first I was like, "No, and I thought about it. I was like, well, if I make a business of it, I can make more of an impact and help more people." And so literally that's how it started. Got my certification as a holistic health practitioner and a wellness coach, and I dealt primarily in the health space, helping people whether they had an autoimmune or chronic condition. And honestly, this phase of me, being the master life coach and international speaker and all that, it came from God just let me know, you've done a good thing with this health, but I got something else for you. And I thought, really? After I done put all this work in, you want me to do something a little different? But what I realized is even at that point in my business, most of the women that I was serving wasn't coming to me for health and wellness anymore. That was coming to me for business
Mm.
strategies. And yeah, I was already doing the work, honestly, of life coaching, just hadn't put myself 10 toes down into it. But other people was seeing like, oh wow, she knows some business stuff. And so whether it was friends that know me personally or even with like clients, as I mentioned, one of the clients securing Google as a client, that just naturally happened as far as getting that client, and I just noticed this is a talent God has given me, and let's step into it.
You have brought up a couple of really important things. One of the most important, I think, is that you had people in your circle who pointed out to you, like, you should be doing something differently, or that you had the skill that you could potentially monetize, right? And when I
Yeah.
started out on my own entrepreneur journey, I talked to my friends. I have my power squad, I call them. And I said, what do you think I'm good at? I know what I think I'm good at, but what do you see me being best at? And that was really helpful, to have those people who know you really well to share their thoughts on what you're doing, because that can help shape
Yeah.
you. And it makes me think back to earlier in the conversation, we were talking about being intentional, which is, like you said, you were working in the health space. It was very aligned with your experience at that time, but then taking a look at how you started to shift and giving that focus on that shift that was occurring and following it, which I think is another important kind of tip for folks who are trying to figure out how to start in business. You don't have to do the thing you started out doing.
Yeah.
In fact, you need to pivot and you need to follow your strengths and build on them.
We evolve. We all if you look today, as we're recording this, it's September. And if you fast forward into the new year, if you're the same as that person, that's a sign. That's a sign of a problem, because we should be learning and growing. And as we learn and grow, we're going to change.
We hope we do,
It's
but there are
inevitable.
some people get stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
those people who get stuck, what happens? Eventually, their dreams die. They become what I call Debbie Downers, because they're not living out their dream. Now it's their mission to suppress yours. And I encourage you, get rid of Debbie Downers in your life. You need people who believe in your yes, you have to believe. If you don't believe it, it won't become reality. However, it's just as important to have people in your corner who believe, who, when you say, you know what, one day I'm going to grace the cover of Essence magazine. And it's like, well, look at you, Cassandra. Yeah, you'll probably be doing it. And I'll be looking up and see you on the cover. Versus someone saying, girl, really? You know,
Yeah.
that makes a difference. Because when
It
you hear that long enough, you will start to believe it.
Right, you have people those doubts in your own head when you have people who, when they're questioning, then you start to question.
Yeah.
And you're gonna question yourself enough. You don't need the people around
Yeah.
you to also be questioning you.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to do that enough. And if I'm just being real transparent, I was talking with someone just today, and I was saying, my vision is big. It's really big. And I'm working on something right now. And I'm like, this is hard. You know that is going to happen. However, in the process of this becoming reality, you think, oh my goodness, how, when, and if anyone says they don't have moments of that, they're lying to you.
Yeah.
Because everybody has a moment or two. But yeah, it's important. You examine your circle, the 3 to 5 people you spend the most time with. Examine each one of those persons. Write out. Take maybe a week. How do you feel when you're around that person? Write out
Mm.
how you typically feel on a normal basis. After you do that for a week and you determine that, sometimes when I'm around Bob, I notice I feel more down. I feel not right with myself. It's a good chance that relationship has reached an expiration date, and that's okay.
We, I think, struggle as human beings to let go of relationships. I mean, I think about, I'm connected to so many people I went to high school with on Facebook. And I think that is also a generational thing, but it's also an easy way to keep in touch with people. But I have not seen some of these folks probably in the many, many years since I graduated from high school, right? Even on visits home. And it's
Yeah.
great to be connected, but it also is it just, to your point, makes me think, why don't we think about what are the relationships that help us in our life, that serve
Mhm.
a purpose in our life, and what are the ones that we maintain and put energy into that maybe just there is not meant to be that space in our life anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Because people come into your life for a reason, for a season, or for a lifetime. Okay. And so for the lifetime, that's self-explanatory. That's a person you're with forever, for a reason. There's a lesson for you to learn, maybe for the other person to learn. Once that lesson is learned, is over for a season. Think of it. If you go out, I love almond milk. Almond milk, like a lot of plant-based milks, normally lasts a little longer than whole milk, right? But even with that almond milk, there is an expiration date. When the expiration date comes, do I continue to drink it? If it's not already gone, you toss it out because it's expired. And that's no different than relationships. Sometimes they reach a expiration point. And if you like that milk, if you drink it past that, do it if you want to, but you might end up sick, right? And,
Yeah.
and we
Yes.
all know that. And it's no different than relationships. And we stay in it and we wonder why we experience some of the things inside of it. Well, you stay past the expiration date.
Right. Yeah, when you look back at your life, it's a good exercise to do like your current 3 to 5 people, but also I think looking back at your life and saying, how much time did you put into people who you ultimately are no longer connected with that you could have cut off way earlier,
Yeah.
right? And how much energy, how much time, how much of your love, your care went to that person? Not that that is wasted in any way, but just thinking holding on to things past their expiration date keeps us from going to the next best thing that's meant for us, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
But I am laughing in my head because I drink almond milk as well, and I will be the person that's like, "Well, it says it's expired, but it smells okay." So
Not with this new FDA. I ain't playing around. It's recalls on. I definitely prayed before I ate anything before, but I'm definitely doing it now. It's being recalls on food left and right. I'ma believe Silk. Silk cut me a check. Um, if Silk when I get that silk, almond milk, whatever date they got on there, I'ma believe them because it is, woo,
yeah,
yeah,
true. Right now, it is risky, and then with a lot of the deregulation at the federal level or attempts to,
yeah,
dismantle the agencies that oversee our health and safety,
yeah,
we are at greater risk right now. Actually, that's the thing. I mean, you were talking about health. That is a thing that I think I know that we're both really interested and concerned about. Is now we're in this place where these systems, which were already a challenge, especially for people of color,
mhm,
now are being undermined significantly, and
mhm,
that is putting us at even greater risk than we were
yeah,
before. From
yeah,
our food safety to air traffic, which, people say flying is still really safe, but we hear more about these things now.
yeah,
Are they happening at higher rates? I don't know. But there are these concerns out there, right? Whether or not they're real, the media narrative is that we should be worried. What
yeah,
are you seeing and what are the challenges that you think are facing the people in your community, but also when you think about your clients, the people that you work with as this
yeah.
environment is shifting?
Yeah, when I think about my local community, as I mentioned, it's rural. So there's limited access to healthy food. When you think about grocery stores, we have one grocery store in town and there is a Walmart, and they have what they have. But as far as like a actual grocery store, we have one grocery store. So it does limit the type of healthy food options available. And then, of course, because it's a rural area, lack of competition, the prices, you're gonna pay more. Of course, when I think about clients, I work with people from the west to the east. I got a corporate client out in California, and it's just so varied now. Even when you think about a state like California, that has a lot of resources, right? Things are shifting. Even when you think about what's going on with the National Guard being there and it just being uncertain, it just puts uncertainty into the lives of citizens.
And that uncertainty plays out in every aspect of our daily lives. And it makes us more likely to hold on to things that are more stable, even if they're not good. I think about this a lot. Like a lot of
Yeah,
people will stay in a job or a situation, a relationship,
yeah,
because they need what they perceive as stability while something else that's bigger is playing
yeah,
out. And
yeah,
that is hard, right? For a lot of people right now, you're in this uncertainty politically. Then there's also the economy feels uncertain in some ways and the long-term outlook is
yeah.
questionable. But then you're also thinking about you have childcare, maybe you're a caregiver, maybe you're dealing with a chronic health condition and you can't deal with all of those issues at once. So what do you choose to focus on?
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot to unpack. And for people who find themselves in situations like that, I always say start with you first. Start with you first. Ensure that you're well emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Because whatever battles you're going to fight, it will require you to be just at your top in all those aspects emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And someone might be thinking, why you didn't say physically, Cassandra? Because what I have learned in doing this work and working with individuals, if you're where you need to be emotionally, mentally, the physical, most of the time, will work itself out. Because think about it, if I'm stressed out, overwhelmed, that's when the unhealthy eating, that's when you're overeating, that's when you're doing all the things that, yes, in time will manifest itself
Mm.
physically. You'll find yourself overweight. You might have type 2 diabetes or high blood pressure or, just whatever. But when you peel back all those layers, it stemmed from emotional, mental was the root factor of it. So if we can combat that, you'll stop the overeating, you'll stop stress eating, all these things that manifest itself in fill in the blank of whatever dis-ease.
I hadn't really thought of it in that way, but it makes total sense that a lot of our behaviors are in response to our mental and emotional state, a lot of our physical behaviors and physical symptoms. So if you're feeding
Yeah.
your body well and you're taking care of your mental health and you're doing things to be in a good place spiritually and emotionally, that you also will have good physical health. Not always. I mean, things happen, as you're saying,
Well,
but that's an interesting way to think about it that I don't think I've heard articulated like that before, which makes it even more important that we focus on those things that
yeah.
fill us up.
Mm. Yeah.
S-
Yeah.
So tell
You
me,
got to.
what are some things that fill you up? How do you take care of yourself?
Oh wow. The things I love doing, anyone who knows me, along with therapy, that's my jam. I love my essential oils, my go-tos, some of my favorites, lavender, peppermint. I'm always gonna love a good rose essential oil. Whether it's putting it in a diffuser just to let off that nice aroma, lavender and peppermint. It's really good for relaxation. Roses as well. So whether you're at the end of the day just want to rest, unwind, I like those scents. And for anyone who is going to do this, please consult a health professional or wellness coach or someone who is trained in aromatherapy, but you can use them topically on your skin as well. And so I do that sometimes, but you have to use a carrier oil and put that on your skin first. So for anyone who's listening and they're thinking, I don't know what you're talking about, reach out to me. I don't want you out here getting your skin inflamed or irritated because you didn't know the right thing to do and utilizing essential oils on your skin. But that's one thing I love to do. I love reading. So just grabbing a good book that's for me, relaxation, music therapy. And what woman does not like sitting just finding a good chick flick to watch just one weekend where it's like, I got nothing to do. I'm gonna turn on this streaming and it's gonna be some on here that I'm gonna laugh at and get some entertainment from. So those are some of the things I do.
I love that. I do love a good rom-com too. I like to lay in my bed with my blankie and just get cozy and put on a silly movie and just have a peaceful afternoon or evening to myself, watching my silly rom-com. That is so fun.
Matter of fact, tonight, one of my Tyler Perry sent me a check. Sisters. I love that show, y'all. I'm not gonna lie, that's one of my favorite shows. So I will make me some mushroom coffee. I love me some Ryze Mushroom Coffee. So I'll make a cup of my coffee and get a snack and watch Sisters and just laugh and like, oh, it's just a way for me to get a good laugh, relax, unwind.
Yeah, I saw on your Linktree that you have Ryze Mushroom Coffee on there. I got a sample recently from a local store, and I haven't tried it yet, but I want to.
Yeah, as life would have it. And that's why I say whatever you do, just show up authentically. Because honestly, we partnered just here recently, but I had already been drinking the stuff. And so it was just like an organic thing. You know, like how we're sitting here on this podcast. I think maybe one day I had did a video and I mentioned that I was drinking Ryze Mushroom Coffee and I don't even know how long ago that was and we ended up having a partnership together just here recently. So just be you. Be you. What's
Yeah.
for you is for you. And even when you think no one is watching, they are, right? So just be you.
Oh, I love that, and I definitely am gonna try that and let you know what I think about it because I transitioned away from drinking coffee in the morning. So, for a long
Yeah.
time, I would drink what I call frou-frou coffee, which is basically sugary creamer and
Yeah.
coffee, right? I don't add sugar in addition to the creamer, but just I did that for a long time, and then last March, I started a new wellness program, and you cut sugar out, and you also do intermittent fasting, and so I don't have any sugar in the morning, so I started drinking black coffee, which was a rough transition, but I've been doing it since
Yeah.
last March, and then I was like, "You know what? I don't even like black coffee that much, like, why am I drinking this?" So this week, I've been drinking teas in the morning while I journal, and it's lovely, and I'm like, "Why didn't I do
Yeah.
this sooner?"
I love me a good tea as well. Chamomile, lavender. I pretty much any herbal tea I'm down for. With the rice mushroom, I don't use any sugar. Literally, is just the rice mushroom coffee, and I'll put a little creamer in it, and I'm good to go.
Okay, I'm gonna take that tip, and I'm gonna try it out.
If you hadn't tried it and want to try it while you're there on my link tree, as Don mentioned, there is a link for that. And because you're here, because you are here with Don the Great, if you use my code at checkout, transformation for Black women 15, you will get a special savings just because you're connected to us. So, hey, give it a
I love
try.
this. Yes. Give it a try. Tell us the code again.
Transformation for Black women 15.
Transformation for Black women 15. Let's do it. So, we've had a really lovely conversation. I feel really light actually after talking to you. I want to ask you though, if there's anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to share with listeners, because you have such a rich experience and beautiful story. And so I want to make sure that if there's something that you wanted to share, that you have an opportunity to do that.
Yes, I would like to leave with a quote from the late great Maya Angelou. We admire the beauty of the butterfly, but no one takes the time to realize the transformation it undertook to achieve that beauty. And I think I got it almost word for word. But that quote is just a reminder when you look at the butterfly and you see how beautiful it is, you don't think of how it looked as a caterpillar. Because, I mean, if we're just honest, it's not the most attractive thing as a caterpillar, but it had to go through that process to become the butterfly. And we're no different. So you will birth into that beautiful butterfly. Just appreciate the transformation journey, and that's what I would love to leave the audience with.
Beautiful words to end on. Thank you so much for being here today. Make sure, listeners, you check out the show notes for links to Cassandra's Linktree and website and other resources here and sharing your wisdom with us today.
Thanks so much, Don. It's been a pleasure. For those who don't know, Don and I chatted prior to today, and she's such a gem, and I'm just looking forward to seeing what's next for her. And I appreciate you for inviting me to be on your stage.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I'd like to tell all my guests, like, thanks so much for being part of this journey. It is so joyful for me right now, and I'm grateful that we connected and that you're part of it. I'm so glad we had such a great conversation a couple weeks ago, and I'm glad that you're here today. Thank you for joining me and Cassandra Hill for this beautiful conversation on transformation, faith, and resilience. Remember that storms may come, but they also shape us into who we are meant to be. If today's episode resonated with you, please share it with a friend, subscribe, and check out the show notes for Cassandra's resources and ways to connect. Until next time, remember, work is third. Put yourself first.